you know, 2 target bans there for Pyosik and the Maokai.
Makes a lot of sense. Pyosik, Kindred. Yeah. If anyone doesn't know, Pyosik means mark in Korean, as far as I'm aware, and it's named after the fact that he used to be a Kindred one-trick. So, makes a lot of sense to ban that out.
His World Championship Kindred skin. We
know
it's
that's true.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm excited to see what that is looking like.
Very excited to see that. So I wanted to ask you, you mentioned you like to see jungle bans when you feel like the top end of the pool's not so far off the bottom end of the pool or like the middle of the pool, right? Because I agree with you, actually. I think a lot of junglers are undervalued, and that's why I don't understand why junglers are being banned. Because if you ban Maokai and you end up seeing a Mumu or a Zac.
Yeah, like Vi and Wukong are up now. Those are very...
Exactly. So like how much worse is Sejuani, Maokai, Elise compared to Vi and Wukong in terms of power level, or how much better are they? I'm not so sure it's worth banning these junglers all the time, but again, I'm not really in the loop in terms of scrim bans and stuff. It's just interesting, an interesting topic to think about, I think, is when a role picks 4 and 5. Oh, there's a Graves, my goodness.
Okay, let's go.
This is what we get. Yes, when we get some bans here. The Graves. And with an Ashe, Graves is one of the jungle champs I love paired with Ashe the most, because hawk shots, baby, oh my god, it makes your job so much easier on Graves.
Definitely as a scaling champion, the fact that there's hawk shot there means that there's extra safety for your laner, so there's no dirty
And then the ult for later.
No dirty cheese gangs that Graves has to worry about. Gets the full clear, gets the farm up until he gets his Gale Force, Infinity Edge. Maybe he'll go Shield Bow, we'll see.
Yeah.
I do expect to see two crit items to come out from the Graves with the crit changes. That said, a Bruiser Graves is still very possible, and people still have been doing that. Just, I think crit chance on Graves makes him scale like a monster, so very interesting to see. I have to agree with you. In the past, when Graves was meta, Ashe was one of the #1 picks that was paired with him, and when Graves meta existed, it came alongside with Ashe and Varus in the bottom lane because he needed engage from somewhere else.
So we started off this game talking about the idea of having a good draft coming into things. And so far, this draft is deviating pretty heavily from what's been happening for the past couple of weeks, because it's not just AD carry support and jungle in the first half. We've got both mid laners locked in as the second round of bans are going to show up. It's Azir for TL, it's Akali for CLG, and it's Jax banned first in the second half of the draft.
Yeah, Palafox always loves taking kill matchups, you know? So he's going to take the Akali into his ear. We just saw it, actually, funnily enough. I mean, it was still exciting, okay? There was still the 1v1 under tower, you know? We at least got that, even though the rest of the game was very one-sided and still volley. They're hoping for that kill pressure on the Azir. And since you have Vi for the guaranteed lockdown, this is another like really aggressive CLG comp. It's not, though, to the point I brought up earlier about being consistent. It's probably not gonna, you know, help them a lot with that. It's not like, oh yeah, we're gonna farm it out and scale for later. Like, this is a go for kills.
Oh yeah,
comp.
We find consistency in the fact that there are going to people are going to die.
There we go. Yeah.
Who dies, we'll figure out after the abilities are casted. But I wanted to mention Kalista into the Ashe. So this is really interesting for me because, as far as I'm aware, I'm a top laner, so I don't have great knowledge. But Kalista getting permanently slowed is not something she enjoys, right? As it actually affects the amount of attacks she can do per second. She's one of the few champions in the game where slowing her movement speed stops her from being able to hop as often, and she's reliant. It slows her basically attack speed. Yeah. So if you slow her movement speed, you slow her attack speed because she stops hopping. So unless you stand still and hit as Kalista, which would be nullifying your passive, also not very smart. This, as far as I'm aware, is considered a pretty bad matchup for Kalista. So I'm curious to see what CLG has cooking to pair with this Kalista into the Ashe.
All right, well, we've got Yone, Pyke, Jax, and Jace all banned away here in the second half. It's double top laner bans from CLG.
Yeah, and we have seen Kalista almost picked as much support nowadays as AD carry, so there's still a possibility here.
It is a flex, so it is interesting to see whether they're going to...
All right, let's rock and roll, baby. It's Annie. We freshly buffed and also freshly nerfed, but also freshly buffed.
And it's great because Annie, the only thing Annie really struggles with is short range. So if you have it with the Kalista, you know, you can pair it for the safety as well as the engage and just send in the fiery bomb, basically, for the knock-up into Tiber stun combination. I'm excited that CLG are actually going to jump right on this as soon as you get access to the patch.
Yeah.
Annie was hotfixed, so they walked a little bit back on it, but still extremely net positive, extremely powerful champion.
Annie looks to be one of the best mid laners in terms of win rate in solo queue. Now, she's always a champion that wins a lot in solo queue, but what's really interesting about her is that, in my opinion, you can flex her around. So I wanted to bring this up because I think it's really cheeky. Annie top is one of the most miserable experiences I've ever played against when I blinded Gangplank against Wunder.
No kid.
Way back. He picked Annie into me, and it was really miserable. And I wanted to mention, the other matchup where people played Annie top lane was Gnar.
All right.
I don't think it's going to happen.
Oh, yes! Another counter, baby! Okay.
Irelia.
There's so much Irelia into Gnar in scrims. Talking to players all the time, they're like, oh yeah, this is one of the reasons why not a lot of LCS pros pick Gnar, but it's Summit's Gnar.
Yes.
And Dhokla's Irelia, two of the most confident in these champion top lane players. I'm so excited for this. This really is going to draw Contractz' attention again, though. We talked the last game about junglers with so many kill lanes. You almost have too many options to go because you want that Irelia to get the kill on the Gnar. You also want to help the Akali getting kills on Azir and bottom lane as well. There's just every lane is volatile now, so we know we're going to get action. This game is going to be fire.
Also, the last pick of the draft here for TL, Thresh for CoreJJ. People love seeing CoreJJ on play.
Put in the effort of kind of picking your support. I'm just going to match Ashe into the Kalista and pick a strong pairing with it. Ashe Thresh is actually one of the strongest lanes early game, at least used to be when Thresh was a meta champion, because Ashe's level 1 is ridiculously strong. It's one of the reasons why she gets picked in competitive so often, is because she naturally gets lane control. So she gets the push early game. Generally speaking, if you get push early game, you can control your wave quite well. You have the hawk shot for stability. So she's just a great safe pick. And together with the Thresh, usually very strong in lane. Now, what I love about this top lane matchup is actually I think this is one of the few Irelia matchups where Irelia does not have to play like a complete psychopath. So Irelia, in my opinion, is a champion that generally needs a gold lead to win. But in this specific matchup, when you get Blade Veteran King, you actually scale into the Gnar on side lane. So you just beat him for the rest of the game once you finish Blade, and it's actually the point in between Blade, like just before. So early game, you're going to beat Gnar. Around level 7, 8, 9 is when Gnar starts getting too many base stats, Mega Gnar gets too powerful, and you quite missed your Blade Veteran King, right? You don't just have it. That's when you start losing. So I'd like to see Dhokla play this lane very aggressive early game, then slow it down, then finish his Blade and take over the game in the side lane. And especially with Vi, mini Gnar is super squishy, kind of like a ranged champion. Actually, Core introduced me to QV to talk about some Gnar. I was very fortunate to have this experience last year because I wanted to try and pick him up and understand him. Ultimately didn't end up working out because I was better at other champions. But something that he mentioned is when Gnar is mini, you should treat him as a ranged champion. So you're like an AD carry. When you're Mega, you play him like your Ornn. I thought it was a very apt way to describe it.
And immediately, Dhokla's just going to jump on him, treating him exactly like a ranged champion. What you're talking about. Close the gap, beat him up.
I don't usually spoil things that players have told me about scrims, but since they're playing on stage already anyways, at the beginning of the year, there was a scrim where Team Liquid played CLG, and it was Summit's Gnar versus Dhokla's Irelia, and they just told me it ended with 22 kills Irelia. So
22 kills.
I am that's why I'm so excited for this. I want to see the difference. We get to actually judge scrim data versus on-stage data. Will they remain as volatile, as aggressive? And especially with the rest of the map in the state that
I will say there will be kills here.
Yes.
Summit, as you can see, he's not a player that concedes. He will hit you back. So even though in this matchup you are not incentivized to hit the Irelia back, he actually managed to get Dhokla to tank a tower shot, which resulted in a health advantage. One of the big things about Gnar is Mega. Little cheese gang. Pyosik's already investigating.
Pyosik's looking for it. Summit still has a little bit of the bar left here. Jumps in, misses the wallop.
Nice dodge.
Dhokla with a sidestep. Gets the stun onto Pyosik. Can dash back to him. Wants to flash away. Uses the W to block some damage. But Summit just flings the boomerang for first blood.
Honestly, good dodging by Dhokla to get in that scenario. It did pretty much everything he could do. Lands the stun as well. Is able to dot Q over and then flash away, but just not enough. The boomerang nicely sniped there by Summit.
So when you don't have crowd control in your jungler, what's really pivotal to ganking Irelia is not letting her dash on you for free. Instead of crowd control, we smoked her. Yeah, we smoked her. We smoke her out, and means that she can dash away in time. Still takes a bunch of damage from Summit on the way out, and then a really nice snipe to finish off this gank. But really well played by Pyosik. Gets stunned anyway, but because he used the smoke screen, able to stop Irelia from closing as much distance and getting away, and ends up dying to a nice snipe.
Yeah, and that might be an adaptation, thinking back to, we don't want a 22 kill game on our head, so let's gank the Irelia early. It's a matchup that is volatile. But we talked about the rest of the map as well, and Vi ends up on bottom side here. There are plenty of wards, as you can see, in the river, though. Team Liquid had early vision, and so play it nicely, safely. They waste a decent amount of time there.
Yeah.
And Pyosik getting into enemy jungle after his successful gank on top side as well.
Quite scary, though. I actually agree with him recalling here. I don't know if he realized he got spotted by the ward, but it's very good that he recalls here because obviously Vi is going to come back to her topside jungle with a recall advantage. He hasn't recalled after getting a successful gank. Decided to use his time to collect the crab after the gank. Obviously, if you gank and the enemy jungler doesn't gank, he's going to be farming creeps instead, and you're going to have to catch up on farming those creeps after ganking, which is why he has a delayed recall. But very good, very aware of him to recall there, because if he starts the golems...
Yeah, and that comes down to good comms. That was bottom lane. Yeon goes and he checks Tribush and he says, hey, we did see Vi come, but she's not here anymore. So probably recalled, you don't have enough time.
Yeah.
And in the end, that is one camp difference, basically, for one successful gank onto a very volatile lane, and blowing the flash from the Irelia is super duper worth.
Very important. I will note that in this type of lane matchup, it actually doesn't... It's not detrimental for Irelia. She can still leverage the fact that her early game is stronger and survive until, like I mentioned, that level 7, 8, 9 mark. It's not like the opposite, where if Irelia gets a kill in this matchup, it's almost unbearable to lane for Gnar. So, not quite blowing open the game just yet, but definitely a step in the right direction for Gnar, which does get outscaled in the side lane and does not want to be facing the Bladed Ruin King Irelia, at least until later in the game.
So one thing worth pointing out, Summit did go for the immediate level 2 boots purchase thanks to the extra money that he had from the first blood. Means he's going to have a massive move speed advantage over Dhokla, who only has the Vamp Scepter, no level 1 boots or anything. But CLG taking an opportunity to go after the first Drake of the game here. Very fast first Drake, before 6 minutes. It's also a Hex Drake, useful for literally every champion in the game. Attack speed, ability haste always feels good. And we'll see what Pyosik's up to on the other side of the map, because the Rift Herald hasn't spawned yet. So those natural trades that we often see of Drake for Herald,
and we have
that's
Mega.
not available right now. Mega Gnar is ready.
Here.
Building a wave plus Mega Gnar, that is the recipe for a dive.
Plus Dhokla, only level 5. Only level 5. Oh, that was not the way. Oh, and he just whiffed the whole damn thing.
Not what you wanted to see. Honestly,
I even heard pain from the crowd on that one.
Honestly, I'm kind of relieved because I don't think they have enough damage because of Irelia's W. Like, if she W's it before the sun connects, you actually don't have enough damage as the Gnar and Graves, and she'll start life-stealing 1,000,000 health off the minion wave. So I'm actually kind of happy that they missed that. As much as, well, it would have been nice to chunk him at least, I'm worried that Irelia would have had an angle to outplay them there had they pulled the tower aggro, because Graves and Gnar, early game, especially pre-6, Graves, his burst is good, but not great, right? He really doesn't do that much damage.
So you think they avoided some self-bait there? That, you know, especially Graves around tower dives, if a mobile champion like Irelia is dodging around it, blocking your auto attacks and everything, can get very, very frustrating.
Exactly. And I don't necessarily think that it was like a situation where they would get double killed. If she was 6, I'd be more worried. But she was 5, so as long as the mindset was chunk and get out, it was good enough.
Yeah.
I want to highlight, Palafox has been playing this lane really well. He actually pushed out the Azir in this matchup, which is something that generally is not supposed to happen. Azir is supposed to push out the Akali, but in this case, Azir took the bad base, scared of getting killed by the Akali. Ranum basically by level 5 already.
And we got to see this matchup last game like Kobe was talking about, and we're already at the point where Akali has hit the growth spurt that you were talking about. So there is that kill pressure. Palafox could go for that, but down here in bottom lane, it's CoreJJ getting the hook onto Poome. Yeon following it up with a nice arrow, but CLG is ready to completely fight this out because they have backup. They've got more men, and they get their first kill of the game.
It was actually until Vi arrived, it was really nicely spaced by Yeon. You saw Yeon slowing Annie and staying out of W range as Poome tried to get the double stun.
Yeah.
But Contractz comes, they get the kill. Good lane gank there from Contractz to come down during that volatile, you know, trade that they were going for.
It's actually really interesting they were kiting up towards the river as a nice side step. Love to see that. I always so enjoyable. Sorry, going off there. I love seeing pro players dodge like bare minimum dodges, you know, like little sidestep, that's enough. He didn't lose any time punishing the Irelia for missing the skill shot there and dodged it incredibly well.
Oh, there are pings already towards this Rift Herald, and look at the mini-map. You've got a reset from Poome after the kill on bottom side, Annie coming out to help Vi, as Vi instantly starts up the Rift Herald, and Dhokla getting chunked on top might make that Rift Herald very, very risky.
This Rift Herald could be a problem, my friends.
Yeah, their top laner is 300 HP under tower, wave pushed in. But they do have the support roam early, and AD carry is coming, so...
Poome has ultimate.
3k health on the Rift Herald, they might just be helping them.
Eyeball's exposed. This will be the last eyeball proc that happens. Rift Herald running out of patience now. Regenerates a little bit. Still at about 2,000 HP. CLG looking
Bottom
for
lanes
this.
are coming.
Oh, one more eyeball does actually open. Arrow from across the map finds Palafox. Flash from CoreJJ to follow it up with the chain CC. Beautifully done from Team Liquid.
At least something in return for this Herald. So one of the changes they made to jungle this season is the way Patience works is if you're in Patience range, the monster will not fully reset. It'll walk back into the leash radius and then regain Patience when you stand there. So all this damage done by CLG and then the attempt to unleash really the Rift Herald from TL doesn't work anymore. So if you contest the Herald and you want to take it, you actually have enough manpower to stand on top of the Herald and regain its patience, which is exactly what CLG did, successfully getting the Herald, but then a nice cross-map arrow there, securing a kill in return.
Let's take another look at it here. You can see Yeon about mid lane.
Oh, not quite cross-map, but
okay, yeah.
A solid arrow either way.
Right at the entrance to the river. Still a good shot.
Bullseye. And then you mentioned it, Flowers. The flash follow-up, CoreJJ.
Pyosik burning the ultimate just to try and kill Secure. I'm just throwing it. I'm not sure if I agree with that, but hey.
He's Graves. He's got to get some money.
Yeah, the Azir also wants some money. Thank you very much.
I just always appreciate that. It's something as a Graves player myself, it's like,
yes.
I've come to the conclusion that using your ultimate for damage is usually how you want to do it, but saving it to steal kills.
Yes.
Definitely tempting. Definitely tempting. Feels very satisfying. Going for the Gore Drinker this game. He's going for the Bruiser Graves. Makes sense. There's a Kalista and a bunch of melee champions trying to get all up in front of you, so a Gore Drinker will make sense for a champ like Graves. Does enjoy dashing forward.
All right, looks like CLG going to start up neutral objective number 2, though. Transitioning off of topside Rift Herald immediately into another dragon to keep stacking. Does look like Pyosik is hovering bottom. Maybe he's just going for a wrap gank after dragon. He's going to hide in there for some defensive Team Liquid play.
CLG not going to go after TL. They recognize, like, okay, these guys are staying a little bit far forward.
Pyosik
Maybe they go for it
a lot.
now. Maybe they go forward now. Poome's after him, looking for the stun, finds it. Contractz goes in. Yeon's going to be your target. He gets pulled to safety by CoreJJ. Team Liquid still disengaging it. The box is dropped. None of the walls are broken. Tibbers losing a lot of HP here, might just get killed off. Pyosik doesn't have a smite to finish that off there, so that means TL walks away from it. A couple of resources spin on both sides.
Very scary, honestly. However, there is this mechanic where experienced bot lanes with Thresh will abuse this fact. If Lantern gets dropped and you click on it, even during CC, you will take the Lantern as soon as the CC ends. Nice little chunk there by Summit. So the way that works is if you put the input in, so if you click on the Lantern and then don't make any other inputs, it will take the Lantern first thing. There used to be this interaction where you would Zhonya's and then do that, and then you could throw the Lantern, Zhonya's, you press it, 2.5 seconds later, you're still going to take it regardless of what happens. So if you don't have anything that interrupts the dash from the Lantern, it will go through safely, which is exactly what happened there. Bai's ultimate did not interrupt the Lantern, unfortunately, which was obviously it was already used. Didn't get to use the Q, and Yeon scoots away to safety.
Yeah, he gets out, and we have now hit the point. Bwipo, you were talking about it earlier. Dhokla has Blade of the Ruined King completed. Irelia is now in the driver's seat of this matchup for the rest of the game.
It should be, okay? He already died once, so I'm not going to say that he might not die again. But from this point onwards in the side lane, assuming that Irelia initiates on mini Gnar, even when Gnar goes mega, he doesn't have enough damage because what she does is, if you play it well, you W all the burst damage from Mega Gnar and win anyway.
Okay. And he's calling the jungle. This is a top lane strategy, Flowers, that I think has the highest success rate.
Better
call your jungle, especially if your jungle is a Vi with ult. So
That's the strat.
That's a, oh, okay. They're not gonna actually get a gank out of it. Just drop the Rift Herald. Still has ulti though.
Well, it is a flashless Gnar, so honestly, Summit's kind of been known to contest these situations and end up getting himself killed, so hopefully he won't do that. As the TL fan in me wants to not see that happen. Just being honest with you, he is very cocky as a player, which is something that can be very endearing, but obviously it has to be successful. And that's kind of where all the criticism for Summit has been coming, is where in spring, last year when he was playing on C9, he was incredibly aggressive, constantly contesting people, and it was working out. As you can see, Irelia trying to be a little more aggressive.
Ooh, nice arrow from Yeon here in bottom lane. Follow up from TL. Can't go after Kalista's support, though. That ulti, get out of jail free card.
Yeah, I love that. True support for Poome flashes in to block it, and here's that dive you were talking about.
There's
Guess what?
Honestly, beautifully played by Dhokla. something to mention there is he burns the flash, burns the ultimate, ult to put...
Hold on, boys. We got another fight down here in bottom lane. It's Yeon under pressure as Luger and Poome are looking for it, but when Pyosik shows up, Luger has to flash away back underneath the turret to stay safe. Heal used by Yeon. Exhaust.
Harry's coming too. Azir on bottom.
Yep, there's more plays to be made. TL still thinking about it, but with a TP showing up from CLG, they're going to back off.
Honestly, I really want to highlight that play by Dhokla. So a little bit of foresight necessary there to see that, but he uses his ult, uses his flash, knowing that Summon has no flash. So if Summon uses all his defensive tools, his jump, his ultimate, in order to try and set up a solo kill, what ends up happening is you have none of that to survive the Vi ultimate that's going to come after tower diving. So it doesn't look like he's going to kill Gnar. Absolutely correct. He absolutely cannot. However, on the wraparound now, with no cooldowns on the Gnar, wall up used, Gnar used, nothing left in order to survive his tower dive, and just really well set up and a pretty easy kill. Plus first tower for Irelia, which is a lot of influx of gold for our CLG top laner.
Top of the charts right now. CLG as a whole up 2,000 gold and 2 Drakes over TL 15 minutes into the game. Early game absolutely going their way.
As I said, best top lane strategy, call jungle.
Okay.
Jungle wins it. Dhokla's at the top of the gold chart.
I approve. In fact, I will say I made a career of the opposite. I said, don't come, go bot lane instead. Tends to work quite well too.
Yeah, we're just thinking about the 1v1.
a lot of bot laners will vouch for that. Going bot lane's pretty OP.
Alrighty.
Might just be jungle being OP. I feel like mid laners complain about when they show up mid lane too. So I don't know. A jungler's OP?
The world may never know.
I think they're aware. I think some people, yeah. I played it. I can say I felt pretty OP.
Okay.
It was really nice.
We have the experience of a man who's done both before, as CLG are going for the second Rift Herald of the game. Remember, the first one was used top to grab 2 plates for Dhokla, as well as provide enough damage to knock down that first turret of the game. They're going to grab this second one now. We'll see where they want to use that. Of course, this does open up an opportunity for Team Liquid to grab their first Drake, stop CLG's Drake stacking potential win condition there, and it looks like Pyosik and Yeon are going to go ahead and go forward with that as Summit applies pressure to the bottom lane tier 1.
Yeah, honestly, I think Team Liquid can be pretty happy to get the dragon here at least and stop that, but it does mean you're giving up in trade for it. Rift Herald number 2, which completely one-shots this side turret, and those things are worth a lot of gold, especially the 2 side ones here. 500 extra local, in addition to the global gold for them, so that's even more money specifically funneled to this Irelia, to this CLG setup of possible side lane dominance.
Really well done by CLG. One thing to note is I actually really like the Palafox walk back in as the Gnar gets thrown, gets the cleanse. I really like that he walked back in. He called bluff. So he walked in to a side where there's 4 TL members and he's alone. But the thing is, TL's champions... Oh, little scuffle.
Yeah, Poome. He's fine. The shield ends up blocking a lot of the damage. He's able to get away from some of Pyosik's burst, and then Pyosik also has the disengage in the form of CoreJJ. So both sides having enough backup that nobody wants to fully commit, but now they're ready to go on Luger. Remember, he doesn't have the cleanse. He had to use it on the arrow earlier, so there's no way for him to get out of this. 1v3, you're not getting out anyway, so a nice pickup for TL.
Lovely. Lovely stuff. You love to see it. No flash on Kalista. Well timed. Make sure that she can't dodge the Emperor's Divide. Gets scooped up, and that's a free kill. Pretty much, right? Because there's nothing to contest. So when there's nothing to contest and nothing's really happening and someone ends up dying, that's what we consider a freebie in the competitive scene. As a Black Cleaver first on Graves. Interesting stuff, but it makes sense, right? You buy the Cleaver first and then you go into the Gore Drinker, as you're going to end up buying both items anyway. You get the one with more damage earlier on.
Blue team's turret has been
Not
destroyed.
bad.
All right, I'm looking forward now to this CLG mid-game plan that should be very side lane heavy.
Okay.
And they're calling multiple members down to Dhokla again.
Yeah, and they're just following this up, exploding Summit before he has the chance to even transform. They're playing around Dhokla, they're enabling this Irelia, and they really want to keep this train rolling as Haeri shows up with a TP to make sure that they cannot continue taking the tier 1 turn.
This is what I talked about earlier with Summit, where it's like he's really playing on the edge there. He's like he's a fraction of a second off going mega there. Yeah, getting the Gnar straight into the tower and maybe outplaying a 1v3 situation, but unfortunately, not in his favor, and ends up getting killed there pretty swiftly, and he lost his flash, so that's really unfortunate because next Vile, it's pretty much a guaranteed kill again.
Yeah, I mean, CLG have... Oh, never mind. Done.
Ooh, Dhokla going in very early onto Haeri here, but Haeri's got backup, and Dhokla has to flash away trying to stay alive. Arrow flies in, but doesn't quite hit the mark. Pyosik's got the slow, and Haeri's got the damage. Team Liquid got the kill.
Good call on the defense this time for Team Liquid. Otherwise, CLG is going to keep abusing these side lanes. They had teleports ready on both of their split pushers here with the melee assassins. Good by Team Liquid to actually put a stop to it and to get the flash so Irelia can't be quite so psycho, I think is the way you put it.
I did say psycho, yeah. So the interesting thing is with the crown on Azir, he actually can take the brunt of the burst as Pyosik forces a flash just running down Kalista here. Very nice aggressive play, getting a pretty important summoner spot, honestly. Kalista's flash is still pretty meaningful in these fights, especially because it's going to be a mosh pit most of the time. With so many melee champions on the side of CLG, Kalista's just going to fly in there as well, and she's going to be a part of the mosh pit. And having a flash available in order to sidestep some key spells like Emperor's Divide or the Gnar ultimate when you are jumping in, following up on all these, like I aptly named, psycho champions flying in there, will be interesting to see. What's really interesting, no flashes on both side laners of TL. And we have Irelia and Akali, kind of the queens of side laning in competitive play, I feel like.
Yeah.
Whenever you see these Camille, Irelia type top laners, Fiora, and then you have like Akali usually in the mid lane, sometimes Silas, they really look for those solo kills in the side lane. And without flash, maybe possible to find a kill angle here.
Yeah, and that's the reason that they made the choice where a lot of people may be thinking, why'd they give up Dragon number 3? They were so close to stacking them in favor of getting Rift Herald and more side lane pressure to be able to try and play into these win cons here. But bottom side, looks like the full wave was cleared out and gonna get the recall off there for Haeri. So Team Liquid stabilizing and pushing back out.
The important thing about stabilizing here and keeping this gold lead only 2,000 apart is right now, everybody's still on their one completed item power spikes for both sides. So CLG hasn't built enough of a lead to have that second item done. You can see all the pieces in Dhokla's inventory. He's closing in on having that done very soon, and that's something that Team Liquid's going to need to be cognizant of, because as the clock goes forward another minute or two and CLG get these items online first, TL's going to need to pick and choose their battles to avoid the consequences of that. One of those battles coming up here in about 30 seconds. The fourth drink of the game will be spawning. Pyosik's going to go ahead and set up position down here in the bottom side river. Contractz is over the wall. Pyosik's going to see the red outline of him there.
Curious as to what the anti-healing is doing in Haeri's pocket. Now, I'm actually an anti-healer believer because it gives you 35 AP, and a lot of people forget that 35 AP for 800 gold is pretty much 100% gold effective, so you get anti-healing for free. But yeah, not much not much healing to be done really on the side of CLG in my opinion. So unless Radiant Virtue heals that much, which I believe it doesn't.
And now we've got a nice arrow coming out from Yeon, the counterattack on CLG as they went for a play on him. But Kalista again, Luger's ulti so good at being able to keep Poome out of danger, but now it's not available here for this potential upcoming Drake fight. It was an Ashe arrow traded away for a Kalista ult. Two pretty important tools for both sides, but we'll see how they decide to play around it afterwards. The Drake is spawned. You can see Contractz hanging around the pit right now. They do have that Scuttlecraft vision secured to the side of CLG, but it's only going to last a few seconds longer. CLG grouping up, coming together. They're going to move for the Drake. Pyosik and the rest of Team Liquid ready to contest. Dhokla arriving on the flank. CLG go in for the fight. The Drake is still at 6,000. It's no danger of being bursted down just yet. Poome goes in, finds a stun on 2. Palafox ready for the follow-up here, goes after Haeri. Contractz very low, barely walks away from it. Palafox still wants to find the kill into Haeri, but Dhokla's already killed off Yeon. Palafox drops. Team Liquid has taken down 1 for 1, and CLG is backing away. The health bars are low, and CoreJJ goes in to make it happen. Summit flies over the top, but Dhokla's ready to fight back. It's big Dhokla, baby! He picks up 2, he picks up 3, he absolutely smears Team Liquid all over the floor!
That's Dhokla Irelia for you! Summit's the only one left alive, he can't steal the dragon, and CLG pull out a massive team fight. Big Dhok's putting them on his back. This is why they are so confident in him on this pick. It is such an individual pick, you know, not that many LCS top laners will play it on stage. A lot will play it in scrims, but he makes it happen in the dragon fight, and that will be Baron on top of it. So many rewards for that outplay.
They go for the Baron here, so before we review the last game, we're gonna have to see if they can actually get this and get out, because someone is TPing in with Mega. All flashes practically burned from the last fight, but it does look like they're gonna be able to get it.
They might lose a man or two here. We'll see if Team Liquid's able to collapse in time. Palafox still back in the pit. Gonna be slammed into the wall from the Gnar ulti, but it's Akali. She's very mobile, very nimble, able to escape. And so CLG, they get a massive team fight win. They get themselves to Soul Point. They collect the Baron, and they do it all without anybody getting picked off on the end of the play.
Oof. That's all I'm gonna say about that one as a TL fan. Oof.
All right, do our Dhokla Pro view here, Bwipo. Take us through the...
Actually, I think so. All the chaos in the fight is beautiful. The flash taper is actually perfect to create chaos. The bile goes on the graves. Meanwhile, Akali's ulting in up there. Irelia's 1v3ing, fighting multiple people, Yeon on the side here. And then the fight looks one for TL. Pay attention to what Summit's doing and what Dhokla's doing. Summit assumes that Dhokla's not going to be able to win this 1v3, so he's going forward into the opposing backline, ignores the Irelia. However, Dhokla has other things to say, gets into the backline, and starts just shredding down people, basically. Honestly, really close fight. That was 1 or 2 auto attacks off being a wipe for TL or a wipe for CLG, which in this case... Loves to see it.
Holy cow, man. CLG, they're feeling it. Look at the damage on Dhokla, 45-11 in that fight, as Palafox gets himself a kill on Summit here in the bottom lane. Pyosik runs back to a barely standing tier 1 turret. Contractz looking for an opportunity to maybe collapse. CoreJJ should have an escape route for Pyosik if he gets in any trouble, but the CLG lead is only gonna get bigger. This first turret is about to get knocked down. They're already at a 5,000 gold lead, and now, why not make it 6? Turrets falling mid, turrets falling bot. These guys are applying the pressure, and counter logic gaming came to play.
That's the positive side of not being a consistent team. When your last week was dog doo-doo, this week looks great.
Oh boy, Yeon gets away with another nice lantern from Core. He's had a lot of clutch saves this game. Luger having to fall back as the turret shots proc his immortal shield bow. Pyosik looking to reinforce these guys here in the bottom lane. Palafox dashing back out of the smoke screen. Poome looks for a flank angle, but he's got to be careful because Haeri spots him out. Meanwhile, Dhokla, the biggest, baddest, chaddest dude on CLG this game, separated from the rest of the squad, so they don't want to go for a re-engage.
Doesn't have the TP available either.
He could be more Chad with a TP.
True. The rest of the team can be more Chad because he can like spread his Chadness over the map with teleport. Without it, only people get to be Chad around him.
I think he gave some to Palafox. He inspired him to win that 1v1.
I wanted to mention, like, Irelia and Akali. What do I think of when I think Irelia and Akali? I think of Rookie and the Shy in 2018. Obviously a very pivotal year for me, but I think most people would agree that was a very spicy year of League of Legends when it comes to these champions.
Yes, sir.
That's when they got released and reworked. Sorry, they were released before they got reworked, and they turned into these. Well, I'll let you choose what you like. These beasts, I would say, of mechanical prowess. And honestly, they've been really confident. They've been taking outnumbered fights right there, 1v2, fights to the death, and says, you know what? Calls them out on it. I win these. Takes a 2v1 kill, masterfully played by Palafox, and obviously in the 1v3 earlier, Dhokla managed to turn around the team fight and win. So really lovely stuff to see. This is the scariest thing about playing these champions on stage. You mentioned a lot of people scrim with them, but on stage, LTR comes out.
Forcing the cleanse out of Luger as Haeri goes in. Ends up shuffling everybody else back. Contractz stuck in the middle, has to flash to make room for the Vault Breaker to disengage. Again, it's CLG without Dhokla, so they got to be careful here. Luger and Poome still off to the side. Summit looking to chase him out. Contractz being kept out of the fight again by Pyosik. And Team Liquid finds a way to force 5v4, go in and grab the turret. But Palafox is looking for Yeon. CoreJJ with a nice disengage, playing him back. But Dhokla's ready to enter. All they're trying to do is keep Team Liquid around long enough for Dhokla to show up, and he's into the back line. He drops the ulti, and Luger drops Summit. CoreJJ's the sacrificial lamb, and Dhokla sends him out to pasture. CLG find 2 more.
Honestly, masterfully played by Core. I think if Core didn't, like, interrupt Akali's ultimate, predicts the flash from Dhokla, the flash ult from Dhokla, hooks him on it, flays him out of the queue after hooking on him. If he didn't play it as well as he did, I do think that would have been an ace, potentially the game for CLG. So, great stuff from Core. That said, no flash on Irelia. She has a big shutdown. Being able to track her down in the backline and burn her down with Azir, since she doesn't have magic resistance yet, is going to be pivotal in order for a TL win. They have to be able to get the 600 gold shutdown, 900 in total for the kill credit as well, onto one of the carries of TL to get enough gold to really turn this game around, as they are staring down a Cloud Soul. Not the scariest Dragon Soul, but still a pretty nice one for all these flanking champions trying to get in the middle.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was a huge win for CLG, and my eyes are just glued to the minimap. Everybody's looking at Dhokla. Everybody in the game is tracking how soon until Irelia arrives, basically, is the timer on your fight. And CLG, you can see Palafox there diving in on the Akali, just trying to buy that time for him to arrive, harassing them down. And in the end, they get 2 towers plus the Dragon Soul out of it, in addition to the 2 kills. And so they are in one of the strongest positions that we have seen CLG this whole year.
I wanted to highlight Contractz as Vi play this game. I actually think it's very hard to play a hard engaged, committing champion like Vi and not die a single time while still picking fights. Because he's been the main engage the majority of the game. Poome gets caught warding all out by himself. No Kalista ult in range.
Yeah, that was
Rest in peace.
unideal.
Yeah, it was close on screen, almost in range there towards the end, but not quite enough. And so Team Liquid do get a nice little freebie. Even though you're this far ahead, you have to take that extra couple seconds to allow your Kalista to be at least close enough for you to get that vision.
Absolutely. Pyosik is going for a more damage option. So usually when you see the Bruiser Grave, they go Gordon Cleavers, the damage options. They go like Maul of Mordius as the Baron gets started up. Gonna see, I actually think they're going to commit to this Baron. They feel the pressure to make something happen to turn this game around.
Contractz could potentially steal. Palafox coming in on the flank. Dhokla has teleported. Team Liquid has a 5v4, but they gotta be careful. Contractz already ready to engage, and Team Liquid has to fall back. Summit's ready to transform, but into the back line goes Palafox. He's gonna be taken low, taken down. Team Liquid, they're cutting him off. They're burying him. It's a shutdown back over to Yeon. They've taken out the Irelia. The king is dead, and Palafox died with them. Now CLG has to deal with a 3v5 scenario. CoreJJ is very low. He's trying to just skirt the edges of this, be able to save somebody with a lantern if needed. Poome's got flash, Poome's got ulti. Contractz still looking for a steal. Poome goes in. Summit tanks a lot of damage there. Baron's down to 3K. Contractz over the wall, thinking about the ball breaker, goes in towards Pyosik. They want to focus Contractz. He steals the Baron. CLG just stop them in their tracks. Pyosik still tries to fight a little bit longer. Contractz wants to get away. Aftershock keeps him protected. He shouldn't die to this. Pyosik keeps going in, but Luger's ready to go right back at him. CoreJJ drop. Luger's finding more. Contractz in the front line with a stasis to buy time. And CLG and Luger make pin cushions out of him.
Oh my God, CLG 3 members. They steal the Baron, they clean the team fight, and they wipe the TL base.
Man,
You can tell, because I know you've been there too, as a jungler, you just get smite stolen against. You know, Pyosik was enraged, so he chased them into the enemy jungle.
I was about to say, I felt like he was just mad.
Yeah, you're just pissed.
Oh, we're 3v5. Why is this guy in the pit next to me?
How do you dare you do this on stage?
Our Nexus.
Oh. Summit versus everybody on CLG. Palafox just cuts him down. CLG know they only have a few seconds left before the respawn start coming in, so they want to finish this game off pretty quick. CoreJJ is the only man standing, throws out the box. Contractz and Poome and Luger trying to put some more DPS into the Nexus. Yes, Dhokla finally dies with a fountain laser, but it's CLG starting off super weak with a dog.
Honestly, as a TL fan, that was depressing to watch. However, I will give credit where credit is due, and I do think, like I mentioned, actually, I think Contractz played a phenomenal game. He was where he needed to be, engaging the fights when he needed to, never died in this game, even though he was usually the first guy to go in. I think it's really impressive. With that said, honestly, that Kalista play was really, really good. I think being able to call, like,